The President Donald Trump has pushed back strongly against criticism of his handling of the war with Iran, insisting his support remains pretty solid despite the mounting public skepticism. But a new AP-NORC poll now suggests a completely different picture, with most Americans saying that the conflict has not been worth fighting, and the approval of Trump's approach has slipped even within his own party. Trump defended his record on the Iran conflict, insisting that public support for his leadership remains strong, but the AP-NORC poll shows that the Americans are increasingly skeptical of the war with Iran. Now, reacting to criticism over his handling of the war, Trump dismissed the unfavorable surveys as nothing but fake news, polling claiming that his approval numbers were actually the strongest that they have ever been, though he has offered no evidence to support the claim. Trump further argued that his administration's record on taxes, jobs, border security and foreign policy justified stronger public support. But the latest AP-NORC findings point to a much more complicated political reality, with about two-thirds of the people saying that the conflict has not been worth fighting at all. But the AP poll shows a clear public push for de-escalation, with some strong majorities favouring economic stability and diplomatic efforts over continued fighting. And about two-thirds of the Americans say that the war has simply just not been worth it, while just 1 in 5 support continuing the military action. Instead, most of the respondents back a permanent ceasefire through negotiations, and a similar share want at least a temporary pause in fighting to allow talks to take place. At the same time, 72% of the Americans say that keeping oil and gas prices low is a priority, reflecting growing concerns over the economic impact of the conflict. The poll also shared that only about 20% support continuing the military action, and roughly 30% want a pause for the ceasefire talks now as the war has continued. The data suggests that the Americans increasingly have focused on the cost of living pressures and ending the war. It also appears that people in the United States have increasingly focused on fuel prices, economic pressure, and the push for a negotiated ceasefire rather than an extended military campaign. The president's performance is dipping amongst the Republicans in the first major way since he has returned to power, and quite possibly in a much more serious manner than the dip of approval that he witnessed. In the immediate aftermath of the 6th of January, Trump has also called these numbers out. With 3 months to go until the U.S. midterm elections in November, voters increasingly seem to prefer the Democrats over the Republican Party, and that has had control of the Congress for the last 2 years. For Trump, the numbers point to a growing challenge, which he has dismissed as just fake news. But the fact of the matter is that while concern over Iran remains high, support for the war effort itself appears to be weakening. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.